The following podcast is presented by Secret Room Multimedia. Rorschach's Journal, January 14th, 2015. Dead dog still in alleyway. When will somebody clean that up? You're listening to Fairpoint. I'm Rorschach.
And I am Dr. Jonathan Osterman.
Today's topic, overrated comic. Some would say graphic novel. Liberal hipsters.
There are the same amount of atoms in a good comic as there are a bad comic. Structurally, they are identical. I do not see any difference.
You're losing touch, man. You're drifting away, Doc.
If only you could perceive things the way I perceive them, then maybe you would understand.
If you haven't guessed, today's topic is Watchmen.
Watchmen! Smiley face comic.
Oh, I thought you were just like, Watchmen, smiley face, I'm happy. Like
exclamation points.
You couldn't express your emotion
4
another
or
way.
5.
Yes, we're continuing Listener Appreciation Month with James's request, The Watchmen.
Thanks, James. You kind of gave us an out because we were bound to do this one eventually.
Yeah, Watchmen was a really awesome comic book that gets tons of critical acclaim, and it's really cool.
Deservedly so.
We suggest you read the comic. We're going to spoil the fuck out of it. We don't want to ruin that for you, but just in case you were just so stubborn and you won't read it, we're going to give you a good summarization of what it's about and all that, or in case it's been a long time since you have read
and
it.
Even if you refuse to read comics, that's not your thing, check out the movie. It was done really well, and it's fairly close adaptation.
It's probably the closest adaptation that you've ever seen, like whether it's good or bad, for better or worse, it follows it pretty fucking close. We're going to talk about that and when it does and when it doesn't a little later.
Right.
Talk about all that shit later.
But the key point of this right now is spoiler alert for the whole topic.
Yes, seriously.
And not even the whole topic. Apparently, allegedly, Nathan's going to spoil some news for us, too.
Yeah, there's going to be some spoilers in the news, too. We're handing off the news, though. Me and Craig need a break. We're actually going to take a break. Let a couple other people do the news for us.
We've done enough.
And then we'll be back. It went well with Guy Fawkes. I use the word loosely. But,
you sure? He's still buzzing me and texting me constantly when he's going to be invited back to do that. And I just don't have the heart to tell him Fox News was a bust.
Didn't test well.
But maybe these two yahoos can get it together and do it right.
Yeah, just a heads up, we are going to spoil the ending, possibly, of Batman Arkham Knight.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and it's not even it's not a definite thing. It's like you'll get to it in the news, but I'll pop back up to let you know when to skip ahead, just in case you don't want it spoiled for you.
Very thoughtful of you, Nathan.
Yeah, so we'll see you back here for the topic right after the news.
I am Dr. Jonathan Osterman, and this is a news article that I've perceived.
This one from present.
What you call the present is not relative to me.
Hearn.
While looking into the reaches of the far distant galaxies, NASA astronomers have discovered 2 planets that so far are the most closely related to Earth yet.
Same amount of atoms, no difference.
Actually...
Everybody laugh. I said a funny.
Actually, Walter...
That's not my name.
They aren't the same amount of atoms, because while they are closely related, they are still different. You have a very strange sense of humor. One is just 10% smaller than what you would call Earth, and it would hold a recorded average temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It collects 40% more energy from its star than we do from our sun, and it has been said that it is possible for bacteria to live and thrive in that kind of climate. The other planet, Kepler 442-b, is 34% bigger than Earth, but it only receives 60% of the energy, therefore making its climate approximately 0 degrees Fahrenheit as the average temperature.
Great news. All the rich left-wing intellectuals toast their glasses. Everybody happy. Down here, dead dog, still in my fucking alley. Excuse me. Shouldn't use profanity. Unseemly.
Phonetically, there are the same amount of letters in a swear word as there are in any other word. I don't understand.
Big news. Comic news. IDW, publisher of such nostalgic drivel as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Godzilla, Transformers, and more, has recently acquired Top Cow Publishing.
When one publisher acquires another, is there any real change, or is it still the same structure?
Now can do multiple crossovers with Witchblade and the X-Files. Moving on. Picked up some more comic book news. Down at the same spot. Had to break some fingers, but got the scoop.
Does that seem like a practical way of acquiring this knowledge?
Works. Benedict Cumberbatch cast as Doctor Strange in upcoming film adaptation. Now all the teenage girls and Sherlock fans can sleep well in their penthouses that their likely communist pop icon will be portraying one of comic books' most beloved heroes.
This movie will open to critical acclaim.
Possible plot to discredit masked heroes. Must investigate further.
Something's blocking me from seeing anything further into this. The possibilities include tachyons or own self-repression. I cannot be sure.
Hey guys, Nathan from the future, just letting you know like I said I would. This is about the time when we start talking the Arkham Knight spoiler. That's the Batman video game spoilers. If you don't give a shit, keep listening. Otherwise, just go ahead and skip to 12 minutes and we won't bring it up again. We'll start talking Watchmen. You were warned. And finally, Batman Arkham Knight. Next-gen game. Pretty graphics. Fan service. Very anticipated game in the fan community.
When I was merely a human, I delighted in the likes of Batman. I see no use for him now.
Amazon posts pictures of special collector's edition. Features shoddy Batman statuette. The plaque at the bottom reads, "In memory of our Gotham Knight," implying death of character at end of game. Supports mass killer theory.
What? Move over, Doc. I have to get in on this. Are you serious?
Yeah, apparently the statue that comes with the game, God, my throat feels so much better now, says, yeah, in memory of our Gotham Knight or something.
That better be some kind of, like, ploy, man. How can you, like,
well, Rockstar, I guess, had him take the pictures down and everything, but damage is already done.
Oh, man. But, I mean, okay, let's put it this way. That comes with the special edition bundle, correct? So even if you didn't see all these pictures, you just knew there was a statue of Batman, when you brought the game home and finally bought it on release day and pull it out and look at the statue before you play the game, you're going to be like, he dies? Why would they give me this?
maybe he dies. Maybe it starts out with him supposedly dead or something.
Or maybe he fakes his own death.
Yeah, maybe he like faked his death and then
pulls
he
a Christian
back.
Bale ending. He pulls a Christopher Nolan. Rockstar would go that route,
Well, no, not
right?
ending. I'm saying maybe that's how it starts.
No, but maybe it's also, or it could be how it ends. He fakes his death.
Yeah, I know. We already.
Or
yeah.
He's really gunned down, just like his parents.
But I'm saying, just entertain the idea for a minute. The last game in the series was a prequel.
Right.
So it's been a while since they've progressed the story.
Right. So the last one was at Arkham City.
So maybe there was a time when he faked Batman's death beforehand, and maybe this Arkham Knight rises, and he's like, "Oh shit, people think that's me or something," and he comes out of retirement or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing random ideas.
All I know is if that is a real spoiler, a legit spoiler, I'm not pleased. Amazon? Is that Amazon?
I think a few people were mad at Amazon, but you can't really get mad at Amazon. That's
well, who's putting out the special edition?
Exactly. The collector's edition comes with that. Like, that's the game company. They took the pictures to give to Amazon, I'd imagine, and like, the promotional pictures and shit. And like,
okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who I should place my rage
statue
at. My fanboy rage.
Don't worry though, Craig. All that's gonna happen is you're going to pop in the game, you're going to start playing it, you're going to be worried, you're going to be wondering, when's Batman going to die? Is he going to die? And Krusty the Clown's uncle's going to die, and that's it.
Oh, first his dad and now his uncle. Jesus, the man can't catch a break. Or most likely what's going to happen is it's going to be forever before I play the game because I, as of yet, don't have a next-gen system, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it would have been spoiled for you anyway.
I'll just watch a Let's Play.
So, for those of you who refuse to read the comic, refuse to watch the movie, but are still interested enough to want to, get the fair point treatment out of it and want to be able to bullshit your way around a water cooler conversation or whatever,
Thanks.
Here it is. Here's your summary. Watchmen is, like we said, an acclaimed graphic novel. It's about a group of superheroes, and it deals a lot with... It's basically one of them gets murdered, and from there, an investigation sort of unravels, but there's more to the story than that. It takes place during the time of the Cold War. There's a lot of really heavy, deep stuff in it.
Yeah, very deep.
Landmark
real
comic
deep.
For its time.
Like further than 6 feet deep.
It's on so many levels. The art, the writing, the... everything. Like you notice new stuff every time you look at it. It's one of those works, and that's the basic.
What else would you expect from Alan Moore, though? I would not expect anything less than that from the man.
Well, there had never been anything like this at the time.
Correct.
So, from Alan Moore or otherwise.
Generally speaking, at the time, all the comic books were still not. They weren't so dark and introspective on what it is to be a hero and like the kind of stresses that this kind of lifestyle puts on a person in that position.
Oh, and there's so much more than that too. There's that, and it's also what kind of person wants to be a hero.
Right. And the thing I really love about that is with the multiple heroes in this comic, you get to see actual personalities, like, and how each person accepts the stress.
You get radically different worldviews and human conditions that are relatable and relative, rather.
And just like everyone. In real life, it would affect every single one of us differently.
And it's more than just that, though. It's not just it's a deeper, almost metaphysical thing to it too. And a lot of it isn't in the story or the text; it's in the presentation, and it's just a perfectly crystallized piece of art.
So valuable to me.
And it's not perfect. There's some faults with it, but it's still perfect. That's Watchmen. That's Watchmen.
Okay.
Dark Knight Returns was already out at this point, but only for like a few months, probably like half a year or so.
It was done in what, 86, 87?
86 and 87.
Oh, because it was released as single comic book issues for 12 issues?
Yes. That's why I hate when people correct me and I'm like, oh, it's a comic that, and they're like, it's not a comic, it's a graphic novel. And I'm like,
well, it was a comic before it was a graphic novel,
fuck
jackass.
You, it's a comic. Well,
it's been a graphic novel since you were born.
It was a 12-issue miniseries, and it ran from, as you said, September 86 to October 87.
Well, I didn't say the months, but...
That's why I did. But I hate that whole, like, it's a graphic novel. Like, you know what? Fuck you. It's a comic. People try to do that with, like, The Walking Dead, too. They'll be like, have you read the graphic novel and shit? And I'll be like, it's not a graphic novel. It's an ongoing title that isn't intended to end. It's not a fucking graphic novel.
Well,
Watchmen wasn't that, but it's like...
Yeah, the big difference there is that Watchmen did have a definite ending.
That's just their way of saying a big boy comic. Like,
yeah,
no, like,
that's their way of trying to be superior to you and being like, it's not a comic. Comics are for babies.
No.
This is a graphic novel.
It's a comic.
It's a grown-up book.
Alan Moore would actually agree because Alan Moore has said graphic novel was just like a marketing term in the 80s. Like, that's not... Nowadays, it pretty much just means expensive comic book. Like, he just calls
how do you
them
feel?
Comics.
Your little hero just, like, called your shit stupid.
Because everyone who says that to me, Alan Moore is their hero.
Might as well. If you're saying that dismissively, you have some high standards for Alan Moore and think he's above comic books. Okay, how about this? It was a literary piece, okay?
So the genesis of this kind of came from an idea Alan Moore had when he was a teenager that stuck with him, and eventually DC acquired the rights to the characters from Charlton Comics.
They got a lot of inspiration from the Charlton Comics.
Yeah, Alan Moore was very familiar with them, grew up with them, and he had the idea to feature them in an adult murder mystery plot, but that would, as you said, expose what type of people superheroes are and what would naturally come along with being a superhero or who would be attracted to it, all that. But DC realized they didn't really want their characters that they just got to all be either psychologically damaged or dead. So they encouraged him to create new characters. And at first, he was really pushing back against the idea because he wanted it to have the emotional impact for people who were familiar with the characters.
And they wanted to make money.
With those characters, yes.
Can't make money with a dead character. I always said. My granddaddy always said.
Or a pedophile character, or a rapist character, or whatever the fuck you want to do to these guys, Alan Moore.
Rapists do not sell toys. That is marketing 101.
Dinosaurs? Yeah. Superheroes? Yeah.
Oh, could you throw some robots and dinosaurs into this comic? We could sell a bunch of toys on it. Just think, you'll be rolling in the dough. Mr. Moore? But please don't slam the door on the way out.
Eventually, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, who was the artist that he was collaborating, he wasn't just the artist, he was co-creator of Watchmen.
Right. John Higgins, the colorist, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does because he really made everything pop.
Didn't he like quit at like the end of the book or something because he didn't like the ending or something? I don't know, maybe I
can neither confirm nor deny that.
Either way, he had the same amount of particles. So.
Yeah, for real.
But Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons eventually decided that these characters all represented like the iconic archetypes of superheroes and comic book characters, and that if they made the characters resemble these iconic archetypes enough, it could still work and have that emotional resonance. And he used the Charlton characters as sort of templates for the Watchmen characters, which we'll get into. We're going to explore each of these characters individually here.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a huge undertaking, by the way.
This is going to be a big episode, yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
You can't expect us to do Watchmen and just fuck around. So
we
don't fuck around with
Watchmen.
We
will.
We don't just fuck around with Watchmen, though. We do more than just fucks around with them. We fucks with them. We don't just fucks arounds with them. Another big reason why I love this comic so much is, in typical Alan Moore fashion, He doesn't spoon feed you.
Typical Alan Moore fashion, so like long scraggly beard and matted
Yes.
like long hair. It's not matted. I'm sorry. Just wild.
Coming soon, Watchmen babies.
And probably a snake necklace. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about just in writing. Okay, let's get away from appearance. The guy looks like a recluse. But in typical fashion of Alan Moore, he doesn't hold your hand and tell you definitively who's right, who's wrong, who the good guy is, who the bad guy is. He lets you think for yourself.
That is typical fashion of Alan Moore. He never has held my hand and told me. But you know what? I would be a lot less scared of the big bad world if he did. That would be.
And if you ever asked him to hold your hand, he would be like, "What? No, you some kind of baby."
Have you seen, real quick aside, Alan Moore when he did? Well, I know you've seen it when he did the guest voice on The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's why I said Watchmen babies.
Oh,
that was the thing that
I know you did Watchmen babies. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing that they were creating for the gag.
Milhouse wanted Alan Moore to sign his copy of Watchmen babies, V for Vacation.
Classic.
And Alan Moore just flips out. I love that he did that, though. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's because he can appreciate The Simpsons. And
and they told him the joke, and he was like, cool, yeah, I'll do that.
He's like, that makes sense.
So the comic they ended up creating, Watchmen.
And there was something really cool that the artist Dave Gibbons said. I watched this in one of the special features on the movie that I own the Blu-ray of. But he said that when he was drawing it, he looked at it as if it was a sci-fi alternate reality of ours, as if like this is our world if we really had a person with the powers of a god, and what would happen then while he was drawing it. So he was trying to make it as real world as he could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole world that this takes place in is basically an alternate history.
New York City.
It branched off in about 1930 something when real world superheroes started showing up. Now, these aren't people with powers. They're just regular Joes putting on costumes and everything.
Doing what's right.
And that eventually coupled with what Dave Gibbons was talking about, the Superman, if you will, Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan.
He's basically, we'll get into it further, but a person who has the ability to reassemble the world on a subatomic level. Like, pretty much he can do anything. And he experiences time all at once. Like, he's a god-like character.
Which was very lovingly taken care of. Like, they dealt with that topic and subject and presented it so you can kind of understand it, yet know that you would never understand it.
And he is American, and he's on America's side. So we win the Vietnam War. Nixon gets elected for a third term, and because he's so successful with Dr. Manhattan that it just gets passed for him to pass an amendment.
Yeah, this is the one thing, though. No matter what, all kind of alternate history there is, I can never see Nixon winning 5 times.
He's the president that...
He's just winning...
Dr. Manhattan won the fucking election.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He was just like,
well,
you know what? I'm comfy.
Happened to be there.
I am so comfy in this chair. And, which actually that brings up another point.
I'm comfy. I don't want to get up.
Oh, it's cold out there. Nixon lives.
10 more years. 10 more years.
You're gonna have to pry this presidency from my cold dead Republican
jowls.
And jowls. Buddy of Agnew.
And Nixon actually outlaws masked vigilantism.
Hold on 1 second. We'll get into this.
Maybe you should just say...
No, I kind of want to do this as a... There's something that I don't want to forget to bring up later when we're talking about certain characters, and maybe a difference between the comic and the movie. I can't remember the comic. You have just recently read it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can tell me if I'm wrong, if this happened in the comic or not. But speaking of Nixon just being lucky enough to be in that seat, was it that the comedian killed Kennedy to make that happen?
It's implied. Was it? ever directly stated in the movie?
In the movie, when they did the times they are changing and they're showing all the scenes, when Kennedy got shot, the comedian was right there with a gun.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Or I did see that, but I forgot. In the comic, I think what happens was he's at a banquet or something, and he's all dressed up nice and talking to all the politicians and the oil companies or whatever,
right?
The tycoons,
his best friends.
Yeah, and they're joking with him about something, and he's like, "Oh, whatever." He's like, "Just don't ask me where I was when I found out Kennedy died." Or something like that. Just don't ask me where I was when I heard Kennedy got killed or something.
Oh, okay.
Everyone laughs and they're like, "Aha, that's
so funny. You're
crazy."
Besmirching a dead president. You card. I'm bringing it back, I swear.
He's a fucking Democrat. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, dirty Democrats and liberal hippies and like your trees.
So with mask adventuring outlawed and the world in the midst of the Cold War and seemingly on the brink of Armageddon, that's where our story happens and what the setting is, and really almost on a level what the story is about.
And the doomsday clock is at 10 minutes to midnight. But which midnight? What day? What does that even mean? Does that mean in 10 minutes or 10 minutes from midnight tonight? Or
no, it's a symbolic representation of how close you are to nuclear annihilation.
But they had way more than 10 minutes to live.
That was an actual thing, though. That wasn't... Alan Moore didn't make that up.
I don't care. I don't understand it, and I want it explained to me, please.
Midnight represents nuclear annihilation, and the minutes are just how close they think analysts and everything think
Holy
we are.
crap. That Iron Maiden song now makes so much more sense. 2 minutes to midnight
to kill the unborn in the womb.
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt that note. That's
why
I just stopped.
I think that's what he says, right?
Hell and fire.
Flying on a broom.
Okay, now you've lost it.
2
minutes to midnight. But it's really just 8:37. Thank you for participating in that little sing-along with me.
See, I think it's worth of note, though, what you were saying, that it's an alternate universe. The major differences are, as we said, Nixon having served for 5 terms at this point, you said?
Yeah, they kind of just... Hollis Mason made a remark that he can't believe he voted for him 5 times.
Oh, yeah, no, I think he served... I think this is his 3rd... No, maybe it was his 5th term.
No, because it was his 3rd term at Nam, and that was in the 60s.
You're right. Never mind. Space travel is a lot better. Vietnam is now the 51st state, and there's electric cars. And another interesting thing is...
51st state. It's like we beat Vietnam, so now we own Vietnam.
Yep. Dr. Manhattan made shit different, man. And comic books. Moore imagined that people would still be reading comic books, children especially.
But not superheroes.
Yeah, he figured it with superheroes real in the real world.
What else would they read?
What would they want to read?
Pirate novels.
Clearly, it would be pirates. And
clearly.
Throughout the whole comic, there's this comic within a comic that you catch a story of that ties to the events of the story in ways that you don't understand until like your 2nd, 3rd, 4th read,
Yeah,
but
that would be Tales of the Black Freighter?
Tales of the Black Freighter, which is... Tales of the Black Freighter is actually the name of the comic series, but the story that we're reading is called Marooned because it's sort of a Legends of the Dark Knight type thing.
Right,
where,
right.
They'll have different arcs, but they're all about different pirate stories.
The whole comic is called Tales of the Black Freighter, this specific story within that comic.
Yes, the comic centers around different stories that involve the ship known as the Black Freighter.
A demon vessel.
Yeah, it takes the damned on board to be its crew. Davy Jones's ship, if you will, from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
But way more creepier.
Way more metal.
So much more metal.
This guy in this fucking pirate comic story basically gets marooned on an island. The Black Freighter is going off, and he knows that it's heading towards his hometown. And he's worried that they're just going to massacre everybody there, and his wife and his children will be raped and killed. And he's going mad with it. He buries all his crewmen who were on the ship that got blown up.
Yeah.
But then he can't get a raft to float. So what does he do, Craig?
Oh, he digs up all his crewmen and makes a raft out of them, out of their bloated carcasses.
Yeah, well, them and wood, but
and a little bit of wood, but they were to help make it float.
What the fuck?
And in his travels, while he's trying to get back to his hometown on this raft of humans, he basically starts going mad, and he like knows that they're there already and that they've killed his family. And eventually, he gets to his hometown, and everything seems normal.
Not to him.
Oh, right. But everything is normal. So he sees a gentleman and a woman who he called a turncoat. He's a traitor because
he assumes the town's already been sieged, and this guy's all merry. Why would he be so happy if he
right? He must have been in on it. He's taken his little pirate whore with him, and he quickly jumps on him and smashes his head in with a rock.
Yeah, kills the fuck out of them, both of them. Runs into town. He's just slaughtering people, and
makes it to his
it's
house.
The crew of the Black Freighter, and then he realizes he's killing his wife and his kids, and he just freaks out, and he looks and he sees the Black Freighters just floating out on the sea. Hasn't even docked.
Hasn't even got there yet. They just waiting for him.
They're just sitting there waiting. Yeah, so
and that's when he realizes that the Black Freighter didn't want the town at all. They just wanted him.
Yep, and he's damned, and he
which means he's probably been an evil person his whole life. If they've been wanting, they're just waiting for him. He always thought he was a good person, but apparently he wasn't.
And see, another cool layer of this to the comic, though, of Watchmen, is that at the end of every issue or chapter, if you're reading it as a graphic novel, there's supplementary material, which is like an excerpt from one of the heroes' biographies that they wrote, and it's a good 4 or 5 pages, like big comic book size pages with small font.
I remember seeing those,
and you get to read a full like chapter from his autobiography, and like newspaper clippings, all sorts of stuff like that. And there's one magazine article or something about the series The Tales of the Black Freighter, which gives you insight into the artists and the author who actually do, in a minuscule way, play a role in the plot as co-conspirators almost.
The authors of the Black Freighter, of the Tales of the Black Freighter, are co-conspirators in the Masked Men plot?
I think it was the artist. I think it was the main artist.
That
might have been the writer.
Ended up being revealed, or is that one of those hidden things you got to figure out?
He went missing. There's a bunch of people that have been going missing, talented people. And it's because Ozymandias... Well, here, let's...
Oh, okay. Now, yeah, he ended up going
missing. We warned you guys. Spoilers. Sorry. They creeped up at a weird time without being warned. We warned you a long time ago, son. You should have read the fucking
Doesn't matter. Ozymandias.
The basic idea of... They're uncovering what one of the characters and eventually a few of the characters believe to be a plot against masked adventurers or superheroes.
It turned out to be way more than that.
Eventually, they start suspecting that it's deeper than that, and it's a plot to trigger Armageddon and end the Cold War by triggering Armageddon. But when they get to the end, they realize it's even deeper than that. And
it was a trap!
And you know what? We're going to get to that in a little bit. Make you wait a little longer before we go full spoiler.
Yeah, see what you've done, James. We're just like, this is so big. We're like trying to get ahead of ourselves.
It's so hard to cram into a format. So the the whole construction of this comic though is kind of what we were on. Like the comic within a comic, the supplemental materials. It had this 9-panel sort of format where it could be stretched, but that's the grid it always was based upon, and that made the storytelling a lot more seamless between writer and artist. And it was just it's at first it seems a little weird and you don't get it, but the more you read it, it's beautiful. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like there's so much. Issue 5, if you look at the cover, there's like a forwards R and a backwards R, and I think it's like a little bit symmetrical, and that's a clue that the entire comic is fucking symmetrical. And in the center is
and that's right in the middle, too.
Page when Ozymandias is attacking the guy who would kill him, who is his would-be assassinator. You can see that those pages are mirrored. If you keep going back, every panel on every page is like mirrored in a way. What they're talking about, what they're doing, what the construction of the page and the panels are. It's insane, man.
Wow. I don't think I ever got that deep. into it. So you enlightening me is like mind blown.
There's a lot of quotes throughout the comic. Each issue ends in a quote. Quotes are used elsewhere too, a lot of times often from music. And Neil Gaiman, fun fact, helped with a lot of the quotes that appear in the comic.
Really?
Alan Moore called up Neil Gaiman a few times. Was like,
Mr. Sandman himself.
A good quote. So let's clear up a major misconception for anybody who either has only seen the movie or hasn't even seen the movie. And just
I am a
heard
man.
about it. Yes, in case you've only seen the movie about Craig in which he's a woman. That was the major liberty they took in the Hollywood adaptation of Craig's life. Was that they cast Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen as Craig, alternating. And it was really weird.
At first I said I didn't care because I wasn't really paying attention. I just wanted money. And then I was like, whoa. I am not an Olsen twin.
Let alone 2 Olsen twins. No, I want to clear up the misconception. There is no team called the Watchmen.
No.
The name Watchmen comes from a phrase you see a few times, usually spray painted on walls.
Who watches the Watchmen?
Yes, which is what people who are anti-superheroes and whatnot would kind of ask. Or it might be what Rorschach is asking when people are killing them off. It's multi-layered, But,
exactly. And that's an interesting point because I kind of always took it as the people in the streets being like, well, these guys, think that they're the authority who takes care of them. And then, I mean, you could bring that to real life and even current times saying like, with even the law, they have all this power. Who's making sure they're not abusing it?
The saying goes back before the comic. And yeah, in the movie, they call them the Watchmen. And that's one of the, we'll get to the movie later, but that's one of the painful aspects of it to me. Every time I hear him say something like, the Watchmen is over, I'm like, oh, stop it. Stop it.
Just because the original ones had called themselves the Minutemen.
The Minutemen were the older group of superheroes. The new heroes that the story circles around, one of the older heroes tried to unite them.
Would that be Night Owl?
No. Captain Metropolis.
Captain Metropolis.
Tried to unite them and form a group called Crime Busters. I think in the movie it was Ozymandias who was in the role, and then when Comedian burns the map.
But
that never worked out.
Well, the reason why it never worked out is because the name is so dumb. It's such a lame name. They're like, can we call ourselves something else? No, I'm really set on Crime Busters. This is perfect.
I've already trademarked it. I've already got stickers printed up.
T-shirts and hats are coming soon to indiemerch.com.
I already secured the domain name. Like, come on.
Al Gore just invented the internet, so it's going to be out any time. Get it? So it would have been sped up. Things,
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan would have invented it ages ago. So for anyone who's like, who are all these characters you keep naming? Let's take a look at the main characters who you would think were the team called Watchmen. But they're not. They're just disparate superheroes that have since, for the most part, retired. It's past their heyday.
First up, we have the man that thinks there is no fine line between good or bad. It's one way or the other. Rorschach.
Yeah, based on The Question, who you may know as part of regular DC continuity now. That was the Charlton character it was based on.
Yeah. Oh, the Charlton character, The Question? Oh, okay. You know what? Because the DC character, The Question, it is the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Such an awesome character.
That's why they wouldn't let him use it, because they're like, we already have plans to introduce them into our continuity. Also sort of a little bit of a criticism of Steve Ditko's politics. Ditko created The Question, and he also illustrated and wrote for another character called Mr. A, who was kind of like The Question, but not as like comics code safe. And he had a huge influence on Rorschach. Rorschach was a sort of extreme version of that.
Which is funny because, side note, in The Question number 17, Vic Sage, who is The Question, picks up a copy of The Watchmen, and he's reading it.
Oh, so this is the newer
the newer question. Yeah. He's reading it on a train, and he's like, that Rorschach character is really something. And he tries to emulate his attitude and what he does, but in the end, he just gets his ass kicked for it. And he comes up to the conclusion that Rorschach sucks.
There's some DC major crossover event. There is a scene where I think like twice in the comic, you can see Rorschach and The Question off in the background, like it's clearly investigating something together or something like that.
And
like
what comic?
Together. I don't know. Was it
what comic though?
I don't know. So Rorschach has the Rorschach's design on this ever shifting like featureless mask, other than the constantly shifting Rorschach design.
Yeah,
on his face.
How did he get a hold of that?
And like you said, he's got a black and white view of morality. His morals never mix into gray shades. Nope.
It's either you're right or you're wrong, and if you do wrong, you got to be punished.
It's kind of interesting too. The original design of Rorschach. Have you ever seen it?
Maybe.
He had a fucking blue trench coat, and underneath a total Rorschach suit, bodysuit, like skin tight. Really weird looking.
I did not see that. No, that would have been silly. Trench coats aren't blue.
He's basically, after they outlawed superheroes, he continued to act illegally as an illegal vigilante.
Yeah, but he also said that him as Walter Kovacs was his mask, and the question, and Rorschach was his real person.
Yeah, there hit a point in his past after discovering this horrific crime of a young girl that was killed and fed to dogs. He snapped. He totally just became. He's a psychopath, really. He injures people. He's killed people before, and he's super right wing. He's he's homophobic, and like he's a fun, likable character. Like you love reading about him, and you like him, and you want to cheer for him. But there's also times that remind you he's not that cool.
Ozymandias, possible homosexual. Gonna have to look into that further.
He just sounded like Christian Bale's Batman. And that's what I'm imagining. As he's watching the movie, he pauses
Batman.
He pauses it, and he's like, like Ozymandias isn't real. It's just he's watching the movie. He's like, Google's Ozymandias gay.
Gay.
Google image search.
All sorts of slash fiction pops up.
Slash fan art.
I can't tell if this is real or not.
Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan.
Didn't see that one coming.
Then there's the comedian, alter ego of Edward Blake. He was modeled after the Charlton Comics character, the Peacemaker, who was like this government operative who had all sorts of guns and stuff and would go overseas and topple dictators and stuff like that, which is very similar to what the comedian did.
Yeah.
Also a little bit of Nick Fury thrown in there, Alan Moore said.
Yeah, he was a sociopath. He just loved to kill.
Well, he wasn't a sociopath because he clearly had an understanding of humanity, and he had some humanity in him. You know what I mean? He did have some compassion in him at some moments, and sociopaths don't have any of them, right? Or is that?
I feel like they do. I don't know. He's still kind of crazy. He's still pretty sure
crazy.
That's what
a sociopath is someone who can't empathize with like they don't really have like feelings and stuff like that. They don't understand it.
Well, I mean, once you realize how big of a joke everything is, being the comedian is the only thing that actually makes sense in this world.
He's a monster, and he's clearly, you know what I mean? None of these characters are totally psychologically there. The only one who's really all
Night
that
Owl?
Morally sound would be Night Owl, but even just the nature of what he does is calling that into question, you know what I mean? And
being a good guy? He at least wants to try to reach peaceful solutions.
Yeah, but is he, or is he just going out to serve his ego? He's going out and beating up thugs to serve his ego.
I mean, it's not showing off if you could pull it off every damn night.
No, what I mean, well, I'm saying he's morally those are the questions that are raised by this. Like, we're going to get to Night Owl here in a second, but I mean, I think through his story arc, it becomes clear that it has a lot to do with his ego and his self-perception, and you know what I mean, making him feel good about himself. And what Ozymandias challenges him with, what are you even doing for the world, though? Like, you're not solving any problems. And like, I don't know. I'm not saying there's an answer, but that's the point. There's no answer. You know?
He was just putting Band-Aids on open cuts. He wasn't cleaning them out.
But the comedian, he was one of the older heroes, one of the Minutemen.
He was in both the Minutemen and the almost Crime Busters.
He was invited to the meeting, but then they never formed. And he did do shit with Night Owl. He did shit with Dr. Manhattan in Vietnam. and dealt
Rorschach.
with riots during a police strike with Night Owl. I don't know how much he did with Rorschach. I know they knew of each other. He is the one that is killed. And, of course, most people don't know his civilian identity is the comedian. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the police don't even figure it out. They know
just
he
think
works for
someone
the
was
government.
murdered.
But, yeah. And Rorschach, of course, is the one who leads this big investigation because he figures out he's the comedian and has this respect for him.
It's a shame he doesn't have the law backing him.
Wouldn't be the same. But the comedian is, as you said, a horrific. He shoots pregnant women and children in Vietnam.
Rapist.
He raped and beat the crap out of one of the main character's mothers, who was a superheroine on his team. And
on his team.
Yeah.
On his team. It wasn't even just like...
It's horrible.
Yeah.
One of the things Alan Moore said he wanted to do in this was show that that even the best of us have faults and flaws, and that there was redeemable factors in even the worst of them. Like, of the characters. He wanted the worst character of the bunch for there to be times when you could see it and see that they're human and empathize with them. And learn
because
from them.
He has a daughter.
No,
I know what you're saying. Like, when he got all drunk and he figured out the plan and everything, there was those moments too.
There's tons of moments, yeah. And even just in his worldview. Like, there's truth in it, and there's bullshit in it, and there's whatever. It's the whole thing is so, yeah.
What's really scary is when he tells you about his worldview and it actually starts to kind of make sense. You're like, oh boy, I need to look at myself more.
I'm going to go watch The Dark Knight and empathize with Heath Ledger's Joker, because that's a lot less psychologically scarring.
Right? I need to watch DuckTales for the rest of the night and just call it a quit, shut my brain off.
Then there's Dr. Manhattan, formerly known as Dr. John Osterman.
Oh, what a sad story, man.
He was modeled after Captain Atom, who was this character that had like atomic powers and nuclear power. Dr. Manhattan, though.
Dr. Manhattan was a scientist named John Osterman. He got himself caught up into some kind of particle experiment on accident, and he kind of was disintegrated. Kind of.
And then he fucking reformed himself from beyond the dead, from beyond consciousness.
That was the first trick he learned.
Reformed himself. He used to be a watchmaker, too.
So do you think if that same accident had happened to any other person, they might not have been able to reform themselves as, you know, a being of such power?
It was, yeah, I mean, it was the situation itself, you know what I mean, I'm sure. And what I kind of compare it to when he said, like, when he changed his mind about miracles, and he's like, oxygen spontaneously turning into gold. And he's like, it's an event whose odds of happening are so infinitesimal that it might as well be impossible. But, you know, and he's like, I've longed to see such a thing or something. I feel like that's kind of like Dr. Manhattan happening.
Yeah, it's just one of those spectacles.
So infinitesimally impossible.
And that's where you get the blue dick.
What?
When he reforms.
When he
himself.
reforms,
Yeah.
I love, you know how they're
It was
like,
tastefully done in the comic, okay?
you know how they're, well, yeah, what happens is he starts slowly reforming. A central nervous system appears.
Then a muscular system over a skeleton.
And then just a giant floating blue dick. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just the dick. There's no body.
No, but he's always naked when he's not showing up in public for the government and shit, and they don't make him wear a suit. He's always, like, walking around naked.
He has no need for clothes.
And they don't ever show it, though. Like, they find tactful ways to hide it through the art until that one moment when you finally see him
where he's just like forming
for the first time.
I love how we're both doing.
Very Christ-like pose. He, as we said, he experiences all time simultaneously, past, present, and future. Only his, not everywhere. He's not omniscient or omnipresent.
That was the difference between what makes him not a god, is he can't see other people's futures unless he does something with them in the future.
But he is able to understand reality on a subatomic level and rearrange it. He can just make people disappear or the
loneliest
movie
man in the
explode.
world.
He's
man.
Very detached because his understanding of the universe is so far removed from human cultural values.
And that brings up a good point of what we kind of talked about last week when discussing what we were going to do with Dr. Manhattan is you had said people complained that they made him that he was supposed to be emotionless, and yeah, he's not at all. He's just detached.
He's all emotionless.
He's losing his humanity, but there's still emotion there.
His story is
still
completely emotionally fueled.
Human-ish.
Love Dr. Manhattan, though. Him and Rorschach are, probably the two most popular characters, but they're definitely my two favorites.
Oh, hands down. Next is Daniel Dreiberg, Night Owl, the sequel.
Yeah, there's a whole thing with him modeling his costume after an earlier superhero. Dave Gibbons actually created Night Owl when he was 14 years old.
Yeah, he used to make doodles and sketches of it, right?
Yeah, and the suit that he originally drew was the suit for the original Night Owl in the story.
The Minutemen Night Owl.
Yeah. For Watchmen, though, they modeled the character sort of after the Blue Beetle in the sense that he had a ton of gadgets. He had this ship.
Right. But when the movie played, I couldn't help but think that they was trying to be Batman.
Zack Snyder did want to bring some Batman into the outfit. To me, Rorschach, Night Owl, and Ozymandias are all like three different sides of Batman.
That's so weird. The intellect, the
intellect and training, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
mastery.
Absolutely.
And then the vigilante who uses fear and intimidation and power,
that'd be Rorschach.
And brute force. Outside the working of the law, and then the guy with all the gadgets and the money and the secret lair and whatnot and the ship.
Wow.
That's why Batman is such a great character because
it took 3 Watchmen.
He's more than one archetype, but without feeling like he's crowded. He feels like a genuine character.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who disagrees, I'll punch you in the face.
Batman taught me that.
Yeah.
Night Owl, though, in Watchmen, he's overweight. He's been retired. Like, Dr. Manhattan and the comedian were both allowed to continue working because they work for the government, and Rorschach did it illegally. Right. But everybody else is retired. So Night Owl never revealed his identity. He just quit. He's got a secret lair with all his shit beneath his apartment. And yeah, he's let himself go. Let himself go. He's heavier. He's out of shape. He can't get it up. And one of his big arcs in the story is that he's not able to get it up until he actually goes out, saves some people from a fire. He doesn't even fight crime. He saves people. So, after that, having the costume back on and the thrill of that.
Better than Viagra.
He's working again. Next, Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias, who's based on Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, a superhero I've never even heard of.
Nobody's heard of. That's living, at least.
He's known as, he being Ozymandias, Adrian Veidt, the smartest man in the world.
And the most athletic man in the world, or the fastest man?
Oh, yeah. He's very super. He like Batman, spent his whole life training to be perfect. He idolized Alexander the Great.
Ramses II was another hero of his.
Yep. And he just, dedicated his life to making his mind and body and everything peak physical perfection.
I bet he was the kid that you just hated in high school because he was so fucking perfect. And great. And he's good looking to just top it all off. Great. Awesome. Great. Now the girl I wanted to ask the prom is just going to go with him.
Plus, he'd always teleport giant alien squids into the fucking football games and kill everyone within a mile radius when he didn't get his way.
He needed Manhattan to help him create that. He wasn't that good.
Haven't you seen Watchmen, babies? They've known each other all their lives. And at the end, of course, Ozymandias is revealed to be the one who'd orchestrated this whole plot. And what the plot was, let's get to it now. The ending was he genetically engineered from cloning a human psychic's brain and using this team of artists and writers and everything to create this big fake alien, which is real. It was a real
crazy
creature they genetically bred.
Yeah, they made this thing. It wasn't like they made St. Patrick's Day parade float.
And he teleported it to New York City. And he had been working with teleportation, and it was publicly known that he had been, but you couldn't really get anything. I don't know about publicly, but other people knew. You couldn't. Dr. Manhattan was helping him with it. The government was probably helping a little bit. So you couldn't really get stuff to teleport without it exploding. Dr. Manhattan could do it, but
nobody else could.
You couldn't develop the technology without it exploding and fucking up upon arrival. So he just teleported this alien creature to New York. It exploded all over the place on arrival.
Killed a bunch of people.
Merged with buildings, killed people. And not only that, but when it died, its brain, being cloned from a psychic, sent out this massive psychic shockwave to put horrible dreams in everybody's head, images of just horror and
like invasion. And
there was sort of a building theme of interdimensional work being done in New York also. And
now I ask you, was Dr. Manhattan aware of this plot from the get-go when he was helping Adrian create?
No. There was tachyons, which are an actual theoretical particle that we haven't discovered them, but scientists actually
I've seen Futurama. I've talked about tachyons. Yeah,
that can supposedly move backward in time. And Dr. Manhattan was saying if there is nuclear war, that could be what's interfering with my ability to see the future right now because of the tachyons that would
and he had no idea that Vite was blocking him from being able to see it.
And what he wanted to gain by this was preventing nuclear war, uniting humanity against a common threat.
Right. And not only did it make everybody unite against an otherworldly threat, but it killed the right amount of people that supposedly Ozymandias said it needed to without destroying like the earth and the land the way like nuclear bombs would have.
Well, it killed like half of New York. So there's still a global population out there, but
New
York is a huge.
But if like they had just dropped bombs, it would have fucked up the whole ecosystem and everything. On top of killing people, the Earth itself wouldn't have. Let's forget about people for a second. The Earth itself wouldn't have been able to survive.
About was the people. Okay, word.
So I'm on Team Vite.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's how you think we should have dealt with the problem.
Yeah.
See. The way it ends, well, there's one more character, but we're still talking about the ending. So, like, the way it ends, he orchestrated this, and it happens. And there's nothing they can do to stop it because it already happened. And they're like, well, we're going to tell the world. And he's like, why? All these people died. Like, even if you don't agree that I shouldn't have done it, if you tell the world, we're going to have nuclear war within, like, a week. If you don't, we won't. Like, just deal with it and keep your mouth shut. And, like... Rorschach's like, nope, never compromise, not even in the face of Armageddon, and he leaves to go tell the world, and Dr. Manhattan blows him up.
So sad.
He's like, I can't let you do that. He's like, I agree with him. And Laurie, who's the next character we're going to talk about, convinced me to see the true value of life and how it does matter in the universal scheme, and if we want Earth and people to stay alive, then we
need
can't
to do
tell
this.
people
so
whether or not it's morally wrong or right.
Let's put it into place. Morally wrong, yet you're not going to be able to talk them down. That's the point. Is they are already at the brink. There's no way that you're going to get both sides to just be like, okay, cool, whatever.
No, but I don't see people ever making great decisions for social change based on fucking lies and shit and deception.
That's how the world has always worked.
That's how, and we get better when we overcome those and learn the truth and learn that people have lied to us. Like but
they wouldn't have taken it. I mean, basically, if they went and said like, oh, okay, well now let's fucking kill Vite because he killed half New York. Let's take him in, and oh, by the way, Russia. Oh yeah, it's back on. It is so back on.
I understand, but people should know the truth. I don't think it would be incredibly healthy for humanity to believe something that's not true and base their entire lives and social systems around something that's not true. It will cause problems we haven't even foreseen yet. Like all the shit back in the day when we were worried about all sorts of, you know what I mean? We have problems now from our new social model that we would have never even foreseen, like mining the earth for all of its resources. We never thought that was even possible. And now it's a serious issue and shit, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And destroying the earth through our actions and
let
stuff
me
like
ask
that.
you this.
But
is life worth living if it's based on a lie? Or okay, what's better? Life based on a lie or death based on truth?
I'm not an absolutist like Rorschach. So Rorschach would say death based on truth. But I'm not an absolutist. But I'm saying I think I would lean towards Team Rorschach on this one over Team Ozymandias.
You just
in every other realm of politics, Ozymandias over Rorschach 1,000,000%. He's way more liberal and like not in like a left wing way, but just way more. Rorschach's fucking insane. Like
yeah, Exactly. So you're just going to side with a madman. No, but I think you just have too much hope for humanity when in reality humanity needs to kind of get its hands held from time to time. And it's just like, do you tell your child
how organized religion and church systems have done nothing but good for humanity?
That's besides the point. That's different. I was going to say kind of in the way that you tell your kid that Santa Claus is real.
But people aren't altruistic to each other because organized churches exist. Those organized churches exist because people are altruistic to each other. That's not, you know what I mean? So like,
what I'm saying has nothing to do with religion.
No, it does. Because if you're saying that we should lie to everybody to get them to fuck about extra dimensional beings,
okay, so here's the reality
just get along
of it.
Together and not kill each other.
Because they're not just going to get along and not kill each other. Because apparently people are petty and humans suck.
And I'm not saying I have a deep appreciation for a lot of religious stuff. So I'm not just saying all religion is just lying about this. But you can't sit here and say we're not talking about religion at all when that's what you're saying. Because that is a big part of organized religion and like social religion and shit and political, like, you know.
What happened was you caught me in a little trap. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't think of it that way. Because I was just saying words at the time. I was trying to make a point, and then I just got stubborn with it, and I was like, "Oh fuck, yes," and no. It's just it's. I don't think there's a right answer for
exactly.
A period.
This is what Alan Moore wanted.
God damn you, Alan Moore!
Alan Moore, you let Alan Moore win when you argue about the ending of Watchmen.
For real, let's just let it be as it is.
There's one more character, though. Laurie Juspezek, or Silk Spectre. She was based on Nightshade, but Alan Moore realized in creating the character that he wanted to draw more from a character like Black Canary or something.
So she's a badass.
She's a badass. But she was raised, her mom was a team member of the Minutemen.
The original Silk Spectre?
Yeah, and she pretty much from birth like raised her to be
a hero.
Physically fit and a hero and have a costume and a publicist. And her mom sort of had a publicist.
And a good man to tell her where to go.
It was a whole career thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she was a media darling. And her character is romantically involved with Dr. Manhattan. And also ends up romantically involved with Night Owl because Dr. Manhattan is just drifting away. Yeah, not the old guy. Not her mom's friend. That'd be creepy and weird. And she is the most not of the super. Like she was a superhero, but like it was never really her choice. It's not really the way she feels about her life that she should be a superhero or something. You know what I mean?
It was one of those forced into it type things, and now this is just her life.
So yeah, her mom, Silk Spectre, was a part of the Minutemen, who was comprised of Captain Metropolis, was kind of like the leader.
Hooded Justice,
who was this big like executioner style, like he had a hood and a noose around his neck, and just like this huge, like towering pro wrestler of a guy. And he was actually the first hero, was Hooded Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first person to put on a mask and start fighting crime.
You see that man, Hooded Justice, just like, what is his story? Dude is wearing a noose.
No one ever found out his secret identity. He disappeared one day, and there are theories about who he could be, but once the act passed, he just disappeared.
He's just gone.
Dollar Bill
Brady.
He was actually hired by a bank to like represent, like he's protecting your money. Like when superheroes became a big cultural phenomenon, they got their own, and he tragically died with his cape caught in the revolving door during a bank robbery.
Oh man, that's what you get for having a cape, or that's what you get for having a revolving door.
Put them both together, forget about it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't mix well. It's like vinegar and water.
You'll die in a hail of gunfire. That's what happens when you mix vinegar and water. Old
so don't try it, kids. Do not.
There's also Mothman, who eventually went crazy, lost his mind.
Well, I mean, a name like Mothman, it was either that or turn into a sandhill crane.
Night Owl, the original Night Owl, and Silhouette, who was eventually murdered along with her lesbian lover.
Because she was a lesbian, is not looked highly upon.
She was open about it. out of the closet.
Which bravo
back
for
in the
her.
fucking 40s.
So brave.
Fighting crime as a public figure.
A public gay figure in the 40s. Yeah, that you wouldn't have seen that in this world.
Only a world written by Alan Moore.
Only a world written by Alan Moore where, oh my God, that world seems so awesome except for the fact that she was murdered.
And of course, Silk Spectre, as we mentioned. Alan Moore actually said that he wanted to do a 12-issue Minutemen prequel story, which would have been sweet. Like,
super
back
awesome.
Then, and it wouldn't have been like, it would have been their own deal. And he was offered 2 different prequel series, which he totally shut down: Rorschach's Journal and the Comedian's Vietnam War Diary.
Yeah, because they wanted to delve more into the characters he had already, made known.
Yeah, he was like, you can infer everything you need to infer from Rorschach's Journal or the Comedian's Vietnam War Diary from Watchmen. It's all there.
Right.
We already have all that prequel there. That's the story of those characters.
All that you're doing is you wanting to create more garbage and making this exactly the same as your other comics.
He was also offered a Night Owl and Rorschach team-up series. No, wasn't interested.
Kind of would have been cool, though.
The Minutemen, though, we don't know a lot about them. They didn't have as big a role other than like Night Owl and Silk Spectre.
So there's actually a reason for creating it.
But that would never happen nowadays. That was back in the time that he wasn't being screwed over by DC.
Didn't they reapproach him and ask him if he wanted to do it now, like to make this before Watchmen thing? And he was like, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said yes.
More than 10.
If you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have said yes.
He was all for a movie being made back in the 80s. Like, he was like, awesome, let's do it.
And then he saw what happened to his other works.
But really, a movie didn't need to be made, but because it's all about utilizing what the comic medium can do that other mediums can't. They were trying to make a movie of this comic for so fucking long. It is ridiculous. And Alan Moore was originally for it, like we said.
What's funny is with the finished product, I almost think it was good that they waited because they probably wouldn't have been able to. When he wanted the movie to be made, it was done at a time that people weren't taking comic book movies seriously.
How's this for predicting the future, though? He said there was one point when they were considering Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Dr. Manhattan, and they asked Arnold Schwarzenegger if he would be okay with painting himself blue and shaving his head, and he said, so long as it's a good script, sure. And
Arnold Schwarzenegger said that? Are you sure?
I don't know if that was the exact words.
Is this the same man that did Twins? Is this the same man that did Junior? Is this the same man that did The Sixth Day? The list goes on, man. Even his great movies didn't have good scripts.
Alan Moore was like, but really, I don't know if Arnold Schwarzenegger would be able to deliver these lines about,
time
and quantum physics and
the
universe, if he'd be able to comprehend what he was reciting. And Alan Moore said that he thinks Dr. Manhattan should be portrayed by a computer graphic. This was in like 1987.
Ooh, a CGI character.
In 87. Unheard of.
People were like, what is that?
Like Max Headroom.
Isn't that just a gimmick? They'll never catch on. No, but let's go back. Can you just imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger delivering Dr. Manhattan's lines?
Dude, so throughout the incarnations, they also considered for Night Owl, Kevin Costner, Christopher Walken, Richard Gere, and John Cusack.
I can see John Cusack.
That'd be cool. That'd be fucking cool.
I can't see Christopher Walken.
No, maybe they meant the older Night Owl, because even back in the 80s, he was younger, but...
He was, He wasn't like old.
I just can't see him as
I can't see him as Night Owl. I can maybe see Christopher Walken as Rorschach back then.
Yeah. Rorschach's Journal. Streets are standing gutters. What's going on over here? For Rorschach, though, they did consider Daniel Craig and Simon Pegg, mainly because their names rhymed.
Back in the day? Back in the 80s?
No, it was straight from the 80s to today.
Oh, okay. So in total, they were considering James Bond to play Rorschach.
Simon Pegg. That would have been interesting.
Neither
of them would have been interesting, but neither of them
I think he would have put too much comedy into it. Like,
I don't know. I'd trust him. Like, he's just going to start being comedic, and the director's like, stop it.
This isn't an Edgar Wright flick.
You know what? There's no arguing with him. Just let him do it. We'll do our best in editing.
Yeah. Let's just throw a few voice changers on there. And
for Vite, Ozymandias, Jude Law was considered.
Can see it.
Sigourney Weaver was considered for Silk Spectre.
Thought you were saying Sigourney Weaver was considered for Vite.
Craig's like, no, fuck Jude Law. I could see that. Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I don't want Jude Law. I want Sigourney Weaver.
Do you know anything about Terry Gilliam's Watchmen movie? Like a few years ago, he revealed how his script ended. He didn't like Zack Snyder's movie, which we're going to talk about real soon. The movie that did get made.
We promise we will.
He said that it stuck too close to the script, and the way he would have ended it would have been better. The way he was going to end it, the way his script ended, was that Vite convinces Dr. Manhattan to go back in time and prevent himself from ever being created. And that would save the world.
So it would turn us back into like the way our world was.
And after that happens, Night Owl, Rorschach, and Silk Spectre and them end up in New York City, but it's our world. And this kid's reading a Watchmen comic. And he looks up and he sees them and he's like, you guys look like the characters in my comic. Womp, womp, womp. Like, dude, what the fuck?
Terry Gilliam, I love you. You're a great director. You're a great mind. You're funny as hell, too. But fuck you, man. No.
And he was like, that would have been way better. Yeah, it would have just totally abandoned the point of what the comic's about. This new movie...
That would have been way better. It actually would have been my story.
In Zack Snyder's movie, they change the ending, but they keep the spirit of what the ending is about intact.
Right. Although I somewhat disagree because I still think that, like, say New York's like, oh shit, Dr. Manhattan just attacked us. He turned his back on us. Russia would have been like, sweet. They would have been like, okay, he's a common threat. No, they've been like, oh, he turned on you, huh? What you guys, you don't look so big without your big nuclear man there.
Well, yeah, you're right. If he attacked America, maybe Vite was just too much of a pussy he's like, wait, but if I send it to Russia, they might just blow up the world.
But the problem is, if he would have sent it to like New York, Russia, gotten the whole, like a universal thing.
He should have sent it to Canada.
Can't have been like, why us?
Everyone would be scared. Be like, oh fuck, they're fucking with Canada. Canada never hurt nobody. Eh?
They really need a big brother right now.
But the movie, while I have many gripes with it, and when I watch it, there are certain things that are a little bit cringeworthy that I wish they would have done different.
Many?
There's some. I wouldn't say many.
Okay. Thank you for changing your tone.
I think, if Zack Snyder didn't make this movie the way he did, it would have been so much worse. And I think Zack Snyder understood that, no, it's not going to live up to the comic. No, maybe it shouldn't be a movie, but someone's going to make this movie, so I'd better make it before they do, so I can at least make it as close as I goddamn can, because I'm a fan.
This was also probably the best work Zack Snyder's done.
I agree.
Best film he's ever made.
I agree without a doubt.
And once Sucker Punch hit, it was all downhill from there.
Sucker Punch sucked.
Oh my god,
that was a sucker punch if I've ever seen one. The ending, though, we might as well talk about the major divergence from the comic was the ending. He, as you just said, he had it be Dr. Manhattan attacking
instead of
a giant alien squid. We mentioned the ending. We mentioned the fact that they call them the Watchmen and that they were a team at one point. I'm not crazy about the hyper violence.
They also kind of made the characters that didn't have superpowers seem like they had super strength.
Yeah, seriously.
That was one. Okay, I can get with that. That's
Matrix-y
one gripe.
Fights, and it's all very, very great fight scenes. Dude.
Yeah,
I love the fight scenes.
I think he did it just for like effect, just to be like, well, it's a movie about superheroes. Let's give them some awesome fight scenes.
It's a Hollywood movie.
Yeah,
so
let's make this cool.
But and at times it's that, and at times it's upping the ante to make it as shocking as it once was. Like, for example, I really love the scene in the book when Rorschach finds the child killer. This is what happens in the book. The guy he kills the guy's dogs because the dogs, he fed the girl to the dogs. Right. He throws them through the window at the guy.
Poor dogs, by the way. They didn't deserve that.
The guy's freaking out. He's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do nothing, I swear. Rorschach doesn't say a word, drags him over, handcuffs him to like a pipe. And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, please, I didn't do anything. You think this has to do with the little girl, don't you? I didn't do nothing. Rorschach won't say a word.
Just staring at him.
Starts pouring kerosene all over him. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. Stop, please. Arrest me. Take me in.
I need help.
I need help. And like, He's like, won't say anything to him. Throws down a hacksaw, and he says the house is going to burn down in a matter of minutes. Or he's like, in 10, 15 minutes. It'll take too long to saw through the handcuffs. The guy's like, you're joking, right? What are you talking about? Throws the match, walks out the house.
Do you think this is where the guys that created Saw got their first inspiration?
Right. Rorschach then says in his journal, he stands out. You see the flames flickering on him, which is perfect effect in the painting because it's not even moving, and you can tell that he's watching flames. It's so well drawn and painted and colored. And that's probably somewhere we can really owe to the colorist there.
Yeah, John Higgins.
And Rorschach says that he stood there and waited for like an hour, watched the house burn. No one ever came out, left.
He wasn't willing to cut his arm off for that.
Now in the movie,
the movie's a little different.
And he's like, please, man. He's like, arrest me. And he goes, men get arrested. Dogs get put down. And that's after he hacks into his head with a fucking
just goes to town.
Butcher knife.
Takes away the whole choice. The whole, you have a choice. You can cut off your arm and get out of here, or you can burn to death, or you can probably bleed to death from cutting your arm. But, you have a choice and a chance to live, and I'm not personally going to be the one that's killing you. To
me, it's not so much that. It's just the beauty and the well-constructedness of that scene in the comic. Well-constructedness as opposed to that word.
But also, to give a little bit of leeway to the movie aspect, when he does that, he had stated that he was still young and new to the whole thing, and he hadn't dealt with anything this crazy, and he just kind of lost it and temporarily.
Which he did in the comic too. He killed a motherfucker, and back in the 80s, in '86, that was shocking to see a comic where that scene
somebody
happened,
was killed,
where that dude ignored him as he was begging and pleading after killing a child, and he handcuffed him, doused him in kerosene, threw him a saw, and said, "Look, saw your fucking arm off, or you're dying." Burned the house down, stood outside and watched. That was shocking. And Zack Snyder wanted it to be shocking to contemporary audiences who would find that really tame by today's standards in movies,
I wouldn't have. I would have still looked at him and psychologically.
But also superheroes, it's all been done before. You know what I mean? So he wanted to have a scene that was really fucked up. And I get that, but I still like the comics version.
But at the same time, somebody hacking into another person's skull by now had been done before too. Just not in a superhero movie.
So can we talk the casting in this movie?
Sure. I hope it's positive.
I mean, Jackie Earle Haley, amazing. Perfect Rorschach.
He really was the best you can get for that character.
It helps when you've had the comics creator do an impression of the character for you beforehand, too. Like Alan Moore was in that documentary about Watchmen, and he did Rorschach's voice, and that helps. But
of course.
Oh my God, he killed it. He wasn't being considered originally. He just made his own tape at home and sent it in, and the director was like, done, no other Rorschach.
They were like, at first they're like, what's this? The kid from Bad News Bears? He's got to be 35 now.
Billy Crudup, however you pronounce it, as Dr. Manhattan. What'd you think?
I liked it.
Every time I watch the movie, I'm put off by it at first.
Do you know how hard it is to portray emotions without having emotions?
Right, he did a good job. What I was saying was every time I see it, I'm put off by it at first because it's not like what I expect or kind of hear when I read the comic. But as I watch the movie, I grow to completely... It replaces the comic version as I'm watching the movie. So I think he did a great job. It's just for some reason, every time I see it, it takes me, a little bit to get back used to it again. Ozymandias was okay. I didn't picture him as German.
That was the hit or miss. Well, I mean, his name is Veidt.
He is German, but I didn't picture him as... But he was
an American-born person, right?
Yeah.
So...
I think one of the best fucking performances in the movie. Honestly, I feel like I got to put it above Jackie Earle Haley. Or everybody else seems to say that was the most amazing, stellar performance in the movie.
Are you going to say Patrick Wilson?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the comedian.
Okay. Yes, he was great.
I had seen the guy before, but
like
it was to the point where I didn't even consider it was, it's that guy from that show. I was just like, wow, that nailed the fucking comedian.
For real.
Holy shit. Every scene.
And
perfect.
Did you at all look at him and say, he kind of looks like a beefy Robert Downey Jr.?
No, but I guess I
sure
did.
See it. I did.
Night Owl, perfectly cast. Patrick Wilson.
Went on to be in Insidious and The Conjuring.
What about Rainn Wilson? They could have cast Rainn Wilson instead of Patrick Wilson.
Could have cast Luke Wilson. Why not? False.
Well, I'm Night Owl. I want to do a Luke Wilson, but all that comes out is what's his name?
Owen Wilson.
The
brothers.
They're brothers?
Yes.
I think I must have known that and forgot that. Then I guess my impression's not that off.
Boy, Owen, it's a shame you were born with a broken nose, with Luke Wilson being your older brother.
What was her name? Malin Ackerman played Laurie.
Yeah.
I always want to call her Laurie and not Silk Spectre because that's what she kind of is in the story, you know? She was all right. She was hit or miss, I think.
Yeah, she had her moments. Sometimes I felt like she was just being like a naggy girlfriend, you know? Like a lot of the times she was like getting mad at John for not being with her. And he's trying to save the fucking world.
It's more than that. There's an emotional dissonance too, though.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of true to the comic.
Fair enough.
But she's flawed like everybody else.
I don't know. Something about it bugged me sometimes.
And Moloch was greatly done. Hollis Mason, perfect.
The only way you can get even better is if you would cast Clint Eastwood as Hollis Mason.
Okay, that would have been
the only way you can get better. You couldn't afford Clint Eastwood. Are you kidding me?
Also, the original Silk Spectre, very, very well cast.
Oh,
too.
Absolutely. She was nailed it spot on.
I recommend the movie. There's also
I recommend the movie.
There's a ultimate cut. Now, while it does have the same amount of particles as a regular disc.
As a regular disc. The disc itself contains the same amount of particles. The content held within is expanded.
I don't know. That's probably not true. That's totally not true. But it's 4 discs, so it has way more particles.
4 discs? Mine's just 1.
The ultimate cut? You have the director's cut.
Oh, I have the director's cut.
There's an ultimate cut that has everything. The director's cut and the Tales of the Black Friar cartoon interspersed into the story as it is in the comic. 3 hours, 35 fucking minutes.
Right. But is yours on DVD?
No, it's a 4-disc Blu-ray.
Oh, it's a 4-disc Blu-ray.
I don't know if maybe it was released on DVD also.
Maybe, because I was just wondering because the whole director's cut fits on 1 Blu-ray disc, so... I just wasn't sure if it was a DVD, maybe there was 4 discs because 2 discs were the movie, or I don't know. Does the Ultimate Cut have that with the Black Freighter in it, and then just the regular movie, and then the special features, and then
I don't know.
Huh.
But it's cool. It's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the comic. If you're not and you just want to see the movie for it, just watch the regular version. You don't even need to watch the director's cut, honestly.
It's very long.
Yeah.
But by this time, I don't even remember what parts were added into the director's cut that weren't in the theatrical release.
Well,
because I've gotten so used to just seeing.
If you've read the fucking comic, it's totally worth it to stick it out and watch the director's cut.
Yeah.
If you haven't and don't plan on it, just watch the regular version. It'll be good enough for you and long enough too.
I wanted to get into one theory that's been floating around about the Watchmen universe. Thanks to the movie, and in the opening montage sequence where Bob Dylan's singing Times They Are Changing, it shows the original Night Owl punching out a criminal in front of the Gotham Opera House with some rich folks behind them.
Yes.
Would that be Bruce Wayne's parents, Thomas and Martha?
There's a Batman poster.
Which is interesting to me because that means that Batman, the comic, existed at that time. But... Bruce Wayne and Tom and Martha.
Don't think about it too
people.
hard. You can't.
My head just exploded.
The psychic waves killed half New York.
But if there was, rebooting.
But yeah, speaking of that opening scene, great intro sequence.
Oh, absolutely.
The soundtrack to this movie, fantastic.
So good. So many songs I love.
Almost every song is ripped right from the pages of the comic, whether there be a quote or whether the song's actually playing at a moment in the comic.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're used at different times in the movie. But
when the songs are put to the scene that they're in, it fits perfectly with the tone and mood and what they're trying to achieve with it. Like the Times They Are Changing for the opening about this is what happened, showing what happened from everything from the beginning of the Minutemen to what was it, Keene Act. Oh, damn it.
The act that banned superheroes.
To All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix when They're in just all the riots are going on.
I love it too because that song is so emblematic of Vietnam. You know what I mean? It's an easy way to show, because it's in every movie where you see Vietnam.
Well, also the song came out around the time of Vietnam.
Yeah, so. and they use that for like every Vietnam movie. It's the perfect mood song for Vietnam. But it's also, if you listen to the lyrics, it's foreshadowing. It's telling. It relates to the story, and like even in the movie when he looks, it says off in the distance a wild cat did growl, and even in the comic, Bubastis notices something coming or something and growls, and then he looks up and he sees Rorschach and Night Owl coming. Two riders were approaching.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the wind began to howl, and it's super windy and snowy outside, and like
that's ridiculous. And of course, my favorite Simon and Garfunkel song, "The Sound of Silence," during the comedian's funeral. If you hated that man, that would still bring you like to an emotional.
And again, the lyrics
grip.
are totally. It seems like they wrote that song about Watchmen
for real, and it was written how many years before? Maybe Alan Moore wrote that scene to mirror the song.
Not just that scene, the themes of the whole story and everything, and like, oh my god, it's amazing.
My hands down favorite version of Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen's voice is just. He's an incredible folk artist.
That scene was a little excessive.
I don't care about the scene. The song is amazing.
I'm just throwing that out there. It was like it was like a whole pornographic thing, like just wouldn't end.
But the song kind of tried to make it beautiful. And he even got himself into the end credits with the song, Leonard Cohen. That is another good song.
Night Owl got himself into her end credits, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, cha-cha-cha. That's my new catchphrase. How's it working? And lastly, but certainly not least, while Doc Manhattan is just destroying the Viet Cong army, Flight of the Valkyrie. Perfect.
Classic.
Perfect. Literally classical music.
Yep. Great soundtrack. One song I really liked that didn't make the soundtrack but was used in the trailer was the Smashing Pumpkins slow version of what the fuck is the name of that song? The End is the Beginning is the End, I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah. And for a second I was just like, you go, oh, and this one song that wasn't in the soundtrack, but just want to throw in, I liked this song. It's a cool song. You should check it out.
All about that bass. No,
Oh.
Do you know the song I'm talking about? Do you remember the trailer?
I don't remember the trailer, no. So that was.
And then you see Night Owl rising up, and it's like.
Oh, you know what I do know?
And I'm Billy Corgan.
Starts to sing with his bald head. He could have played Dr. Manhattan.
Is it bright where you are?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Change. Does it make you happy? You're so strange.
You do a pretty good Billy Corgan impression. I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, do more, please. Can you do Tonight? Do Bullet with Butterfly Wings.
I like that song, Tonight. I never used to like Smashing Pumpkins, and then they just grew on me over the course of like 20 years.
That was funny.
But that song was used in the trailer because Zack Snyder was giving it its due, because it was actually a part of the Batman and Robin soundtrack or something.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it wasn't in the movie, and the movie sucked anyway, but that song rocked.
Okay, there is one last thing I did want to talk about that still pertains to the movie and the comic both, if you would. A little surprise for you, Nathan. I really wanted to thank you because I don't know if you remember, but you were the person that introduced me to Watchmen. The movie was coming out. The movie was coming out, and I was like, yeah, that kind of looks cool, but I don't really know. And then you started explaining the story to me, and on your suggestion alone, when the movie came out, I said I wanted to see it, but I decided to wait, and you let me borrow the comic. And I decided, because you said it probably was a better idea, I read the comic first before I saw the movie. And I think I might have, I don't know, I might have looked at things differently if I had just saw the movie and then like maybe a year or two later I found out about the comic and read it.
Yeah. I remember having the conversation with you at work where I said that the Watchmen movie, like, have you seen the trailer? And you're like, I don't know what that is and shit. And I'm like, you ever seen the little smiley face with the blood drip?
Yeah, and at the time,
you were like,
one of the manager in training actually had
the tattoo. That's
his,
right,
the smiley face tattoo.
That's, I think, what I was remembering was that the manager in training had the tattoo, and we were explaining to you what it was.
Yeah,
and
then he got into Preacher, and it was all. It was all a bunch of darkness and me alone in a locked room with all these comics for days.
So a couple years ago, I think it was 2013, they did a series before Watchmen. DC did it.
Nope, didn't happen.
They gave pretty much each character, a bunch of characters, their own like 6 or 4 or 2 issue series, and it was all prequels before the Watchmen stories, which obviously, needless to say, Alan Moore was not involved, but they managed to pay off some of the best and brightest in the comic book world to do it.
Yeah, and he was not happy. He didn't want it to happen. Like I said before, he was like, if you had approached me years ago with this, I might have been aboard.
I refused to even pick up an issue and look at it. Like, I refused.
Yeah, if the man who created the source materials says he doesn't want this to happen and he's sickened that it did, I will tend to side with him over
and not
the
just
multi-million-dollar comic industry.
But it's a story that doesn't need... it is its own prequel. It encompasses the past, future, and present, just like Dr. Manhattan. It's kind of so layered.
It's kind of... But, oh my God, layered! It's so layered!
It really is. And it's not... It doesn't need a prequel. It doesn't... The story is contained in that. And I get liking the characters and wanting to see more, but it really didn't need to happen. And from what I hear, it's very underwhelming. And yeah, that's that.
I heard a couple of the different titles were decent or pretty good, but overall, at best, the best one was mediocre. I have no desire to read it though.
There's also a video game that came out when the movie came out, cheap, downloadable, but it was also released on disc.
I heard that was bad too. It's just very glitchy, and
it's called Watchmen. The end is nigh.
Yeah, it's kind of like your typical superhero beat 'em up game.
It's Rorschach and Night Owl in the prequel times when they're teaming up to fight, and it details their falling out.
It wasn't given the proper care to the story that was written. It wasn't like an Alan Moore story that they were doing, and it was just pushed out fast and glitchy and crappy, and that's what happens with most titles that are pushed out for movie releases.
Yeah, licensed games. Fucking A. But Craig,
yes, sir?
I don't know if I bet you didn't know this. I
know lots of things.
Bet you a lot of people listening didn't know this.
I know lots of stuffs.
Did you know that there is an official DC published Watchmen prequel endorsed by Alan Moore?
Where?
It's a tabletop RPG in the tradition of D&D.
Holy shit, why don't we play it?
There's 3 books, 2 modules, Watching the Watchmen and Taking Out the Trash, and a Watchmen source book.
Okay, I'm tasking you with one task. You find a dungeon master and 2 other people, and let's play the fuck out of this.
Get the PDFs, because I ain't paying the fucking whatever the fuck that sells for on eBay.
Oh, for the game?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's probably like very rare and highly valuable?
Yeah.
Ah, nuts.
Basically, though, in Taking Out the Trash, the crime busters investigate a presidential candidate.
Nobody could see you do air quotes.
They could hear it in my voice.
They didn't.
But basically, it's a new presidential election, and one of the candidates has ties to crime, and the would-be crime busters are investigating it. They're not a group, but...
Oh, would it be against Nixon?
No, it's a different fictional
It's just
candidate.
2 different candidates?
There's, I think, like 4 candidates, because there's always those second, third parties.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
Nobody ever thinks about the independent or green party.
But in Who Watches the Watchmen, dude, this is the gem of it, dude. It takes place shortly after the dissolution of the Crime Busters meeting, when Captain Metropolis in the book, or Ozymandias in the movie, gets them together and tries to get them to start a new team, and the comedian gets up and burns down the map. He's like, it's never going to happen. The world's going to die anyway. Who gives a fuck? Captain Metropolis leaves there so frustrated with not being able to get them to team up and work together that he orchestrates kidnappings of their loved ones, which point towards the different shady organizations which he believes warrant their investigation. Ultimately, he's sort of framing Moloch for all of this, and they end up, the players eventually end up figuring it out. Right. This would be so fun to play because one of the players could play Captain Metropolis, and the other players wouldn't know he's behind it unless they figure it out, but you would tell him ahead of time. And this sort of influences Ozymandias in his future plans, and he learns from his mistakes. And Alan Moore collaborated and approved this story, you know what I mean? And collaborated with a few
Alan
details.
Moore would be like, yeah, we could do a D&D version of it.
Isn't that insane? And then the source book has all the supplemental material from the comics and more. It has Night Owl's personal inventory and budget and stuff, and oh my god, it's so cool, dude. So fucking cool. Gotta say, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah, I want it.
That's your nugget of, we always try to leave you with something that the other fucking podcasts don't tell you. You know?
We did it. We got it right there. Oh, and Nathan, by the way, my birthday's coming up. Thank you.
It is kind of, still got a few months.
Yeah, you can start saving now.
Sure, I'll download a PDF for you for your birthday.
No. I want the authentic original.
Buy a flash drive for you. You know what I really want them to do, Craig?
I would assume that means you want them to go to the Facebook page.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh.
Not them. Well, them too, yeah. Anyone can go to the Facebook page. Anyone and everyone.
Fairpoint Podcast, Facebook.com.
You know what I want them to see? I want to see them do with Watchmen.
Oh, the people that brought Watchmen to life.
If DC is going to utilize the characters in the world and the likenesses and the everything.
You want Watchmen babies to be a real thing.
No. You know what I think they should do legitimately?
Okay.
Watchmen 2. Hear me out. Here's my pitch. Okay.
No.
Here's my pitch. So it's in the future. It's current days, but it's still an alternate universe. George W. Bush has been president for mad long.
Okay, so it went from Nixon to Bush.
Night Owl and Silk Spectre have a kid who's currently operating as Night Owl 3. But he wants to do his own thing, but his dad's just pressuring him to be the next Night Owl. You got to continue the tradition. Little does he know, he really wants to be Silk Spectre 3. That's some of the subtext.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the time that's happened, George W. Bush has formed an alliance with the alien squid monsters.
Because they ended up being real.
Ozymandias made a bunch of them. And,
okay. Threw them up in space and said, you know what, just in case, here's plan B.
And Ozymandias is still sort of a part of it, but Night Owl realizes it's kind of gotten out of control, Night Owl 3. And he's the only person that can help us is Dr. Manhattan. But he's off in space. He's
in
not
another galaxy
involved with Earth anymore. Yeah. So he takes Archie and modifies him for space flight and goes out to find Dr. Manhattan. It's like the search for Spock, Watchmen 2, Star Trek 2.
Big that place is, that place called space.
Alan Moore would love this. He's a sucker for that type of shit. It's and Star Trek 2 is the search for Spock. So Watchmen 2 is the search. Okay, I see where you're going with that. And then they find Dr. Manhattan, who's remember how I said I didn't think there was a God? And if there was, he's not like me. He's like, I was wrong because there is a God. I found heaven. Oh. I found God in heaven. And he brings them to heaven where they see Rorschach and they all go back to Earth.
So Rorschach made it to heaven.
They all go back to Earth because they're this is out of hand. His plan was supposed to help world peace, but now it's just world domination. They uncover the hidden plot. Dude, we're going to Dark Victory him, where it's oh shit, the Long Halloween was just part 1 of Dark Victory. And we're dude, ever since the beginning, comedian faked his own death. Orchestrated the whole thing. Ozymandias was just a puppet who couldn't see the strings.
What a twist.
And comedian faked his own death to take over the world with alien squid monsters.
I think you've just become a hypocrite.
Just in case people didn't pick up on my Alan Moore like subtext. I was being facetious. I don't want them to actually. No, but seriously, if they did that and like, you know, knowing full well that they're obviously being facetious and like, look, we're not supposed to make a Watchmen sequel, so we're going to almost lampoon the idea of making a Watchmen sequel.
You'd have to make it a comedy.
Like, not even. What if they just did that and took it so seriously and like, I would kind of be okay with that if it was self-aware and I saw it as that.
But if it's self-aware, it can't really take itself that seriously.
If you're going to move forward with the characters, do it in, like you said, a comedy, a comedic way, or a parody type way, or a way that is clearly acknowledging the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, the fact that this shouldn't be happening.
Merchandise. I'll buy a Rorschach t-shirt and toy. You know what I want? A fucking Kid Robot line.
Oh, my
Blind boxes.
God. They'd be perfect.
You got all the Rorschach, you know, all the main characters.
Who's the rare
chase? You got all the Minutemen. You got the chase would be Walter Kovacs.
Oh, with the end is nigh sign.
And let's see who else would be in there. Oh, there'd be two different versions of Comedian. The older one and the newer one. No,
Bloody
right. You could make a Moloch. Definitely throw Moloch in there. You could even do Richard Nixon. Bubastis. There's got to be a Bubastis one.
The little cloned animal. Beautiful, majestic beast. I'm so mad that he killed it.
That would be awesome. You could do... What about any of the villains? There's actually a good amount of villains mentioned.
Yeah.
There's the Screaming Skull is mentioned and is briefly seen when Night Owl's remembering fighting his foes.
Okay.
It shows him punching the Screaming Skull, this guy with a skull mask. But
with a name like that, you kind of think it's a Venture Brothers villain.
There's King Mob, who the only evidence for their existence is in, I think, when they have the Crime Busters meeting. Like on the wall, there's a gorilla mask.
Poster?
No, a mask of a gorilla, and it says like King Mob's mask or something.
Oh.
Captain Axis. Hollis says, like, this is the right hook that took down Captain Axis, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's like a Nazi villain. Captain Carnage was the guy that was a masochist and would pester people to punish him.
And Rorschach dropped him down a little elevator shaft. Was it?
Probably not a little one.
A big one. You got punished, all right.
Twilight Woman. She signed. Was it in the movie where she signed a picture and gave it to Night Owl?
Yeah.
She was one of his villains that he put away. And there's Big Figure, of course, the little midget guy in prison.
The guy, yep.
There's Jimmy the Gimmick and the Liquidator, who are both Liquidators in before Watchmen, so fuck Liquidator. But he's a Nazi villain who killed the Silhouette. And Jimmy the Gimmick was in the video game.
Okay, in the video game?
And then I guess there's someone named King of Skin that, like, a TV says something about the King of Skin being taken in by Ozymandias or something. I don't know. That's the rich tapestry of villains that there are to choose from. And, of course, Moloch.
Of course.
We didn't really talk about Moloch, but he was like a magician guy, and he eventually was dying of cancer.
He thought they had brain powers or some shit, like mind control. Or was he just like... He
didn't have powers. No one had powers.
No, but like he tried to play it off like he did.
Okay.
But in reality, it was just like, there's a quarter behind your ear.
So let's see if we can do the same thing. You listening. We're waving our fingers in the air. You can't see it, but we're doing it. No, not flashback fingers in the air.
Not
just
the
like
flashback fingers?
hypnotize-y fingers.
You're getting sleepy.
You're not getting sleepy.
You're still listening and comprehending.
You're navigating on your web browser to our many ways to support us, like Facebook
and Twitter.
You're finding our Facebook. You're clicking like. By the way, we keep forgetting, quote unquote forgetting. It's high time, Craig. We acknowledged the victors.
Good
our
match,
betters.
old chap.
Blurry Photos won the Facebook war because you ungrateful fucks.
Whoa!
You know
what?
I said I wasn't.
Take it easy, man.
I said I wasn't going to chastise our listeners.
They are still keeping us going.
Yeah, no, I kid. You guys are fucking awesome. But no, Blurry Photos did win the like war on Facebook. We said we were going to set a goal, 400, first 400 wins, and we can stop this pointless fighting before the world is destroyed in nuclear detonations everywhere.
So basically what happened was we waved the white flag before Vite had to put a giant mutant
I was actually fighting for, how about we just send a giant alien squid to Chicago and just kill half the people in Chicago. You know, statistically, we're bound to at least get one of the Daves and blurry photos. But Craig was like, no, let's just, on the podcast, crown them the victor like we said we would. And I'm like, always got to take the fucking difficult way out. I had a crew of writers, artists, poets, scientists, philosophers.
Scientists.
I had Neil deGrasse Tyson fathead on my wall, ready to dispense good advice.
You were trying.
Debbie Gibson kept chiming in. We're like, shut the fuck up, Debbie Gibson.
What a throwback. I love it. Favorite fatheads.
Who was the third?
I don't know, Tom Brady.
No. Bruce Campbell, right?
Was it of course. It had to be.
Yeah, it was Bruce Campbell.
I think that was your first choice.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go find our rich library of episodes on anywhere you can find podcasts.
iTunes, Podbay.
Or you can just Google it if you don't have like any of those, like, you know.
You find our podcast on Google. I guess.
It's on Google now. We're on YouTube. And we do all sorts of cool shit on YouTube. We do sometimes put just episodes up with slides of related pictures, but we also do exclusive stuff, Loot Crate unboxings, clips with cool videos added to them.
Yeah, to accentuate the awesomeness of the clip.
It's cool. We're doing some cool shit, vlogs even, movie reviews, all sorts of shit. Check it out, Fairpoint Podcast on YouTube, on Facebook.
On Twitter, it's at Fairpoint Pod.
Yeah, on Twitter. Next week, we're going there. Another fan request. Oh, we said it. We're doing it.
An X-Man, if you would.
Yes. Still a man.
Do we tell him who it is, or do we make him wait a little bit?
Yeah, let's make him wait. You know, it was requested on the Facebook page, so if you followed the Facebook page,
you might know. Who's the only X-Man on the Facebook page requested?
Yeah, it's one of the X-Men. Has been requested.
My favorite X-Men.
I thought you were going to say your favorite listener.
That too.
Thanks, Sarah. We're going to do your episode next week. I guess, yeah, stay on the edge of your toes. And you know what? If you follow the Facebook page, we'll post like pictures and you'll know who it is. Yeah, of course. You know,
in the heartbeat. Well, that was our Watchmen episode. At least it ended well.
Don't be ridiculous. Nothing ever ends.
Well. Or just ends.
I'm Nathan K.
And I'm Beyond Names.
Final journal entry. Giving it to only people I can trust. Nathan and Craig's listeners. They're cool.
They are cool.
Then I'm going to leave a rating on iTunes. Just in case I don't return from Antarctica.
Thanks.